The meaning of salt, a secret lost in time. What if I told you that something as simple as salt could change everything? Sounds unbelievable, right? After all, we use salt every day, to season our food, to preserve things, but what if I told you that salt has a hidden power that most people have completely forgotten? Over 2,000 years ago, a prophet named Elisha did something that left an entire city in shock. The people of Jericho were desperate, their water was poisoned, their land was dying, and nothing they tried could fix it. But then, Elisha did something unthinkable. He took a bowl of salt, threw it into the water, and declared, "This is what the Lord says, I have healed this water. Never again will it cause death or make the land unproductive." 2 Kings 2 verse 21. And in that very moment, everything changed. The water became pure, the land was restored, and the people were saved. Was it just a miracle? Or was there a hidden power in salt that we've been overlooking all along? Today, we're going to test this for ourselves. We're going to look at the science, the symbolism, and the spiritual power behind salt, and I promise, what you discover will blow your mind. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at salt the same way again. Are you ready? Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive in. The astonishing story of Elisha and the power of salt. Let's go back in time. Imagine yourself in ancient Israel, thousands of years ago. The sun beats down on the land, dust swirls in the dry air, and in the distance, you see the grand walls of Jericho, a city with a deep and storied past. This was the very same Jericho where, years earlier, the walls had crumbled at the sound of trumpets in the days of Joshua. A place once full of divine wonder, now facing a terrible crisis. The people of Jericho were in desperation. Their water supply, the very lifeblood of their city, had turned deadly. The water was contaminated, making people sick, weakening their livestock, and rendering their land barren. No matter what they did, the curse of bad water remained. Crops refused to grow, families suffered, and hope was fading. And so, the people turned to one man, a prophet, a man of extraordinary power and divine connection, Elisha. A strange and unbelievable solution. Elisha was no ordinary man. He was the chosen successor of Elijah, the fiery prophet who had called down fire from heaven. And just days before, Elisha had witnessed Elijah taken up to heaven in a chariot of fire, receiving a double portion of his mentor's prophetic anointing. So when the people of Jericho came to Elisha, pleading for help, they knew they weren't just asking an ordinary man, they were asking someone with God-given authority. Elisha listened. He understood their pain, their suffering. And then, without hesitation, he made a bizarre request: "Bring me a new bowl and put salt in it." Wait. Salt? Not some complex purification process. Not an elaborate ritual. Not even a long prayer session. Just salt. What could salt possibly do to cleanse an entire city's water supply? The people must have been puzzled, perhaps even doubtful. But desperate times called for faith. They brought Elisha the salt, and what he did next left everyone in utter shock. He walked up to the very source of the water, the spring from which all life in Jericho depended. And with no hesitation, he took the bowl of salt, scattered it into the water, and declared with unwavering authority, "This is what the Lord says, I have healed this water. Never again will it cause death or make the land unproductive." 2 Kings 2 verse 21. Then, something unbelievable happened. The water changed. The once tainted, disease-ridden stream became pure and clean. The poison that had plagued Jericho for years was suddenly gone. People who had suffered for generations now drank the water and were healed. The land that had once been barren began to flourish. One simple act. One powerful declaration. And an entire city was saved. Was it really the salt? Or something deeper? Now, let's pause for a moment. Was it really the physical salt that changed the water? Was there some hidden chemical reaction at play? Or was something far greater happening? Let's consider what we know. Salt has been used for centuries as a purifier. Even today, we use it to clean wounds, preserve food, and even purify water in some modern filtration processes. Could it be that Elisha was using an ancient scientific method before his time? Perhaps. But science alone cannot explain what happened that day. There was no measured process, no repeated experiment. This wasn't just about purifying a small container of water, this was an entire spring, a massive source that provided water for a whole city. There was something more happening here. Something supernatural. This wasn't just an act of purification. It was an act of divine intervention. Elisha wasn't just throwing salt into the water, he was acting as a conduit of God's power. He wasn't relying on the properties of salt alone. He was making a declaration of faith, aligning his words with God's will. And when faith and divine power collide, miracles happen. The symbolism of salt in the Bible. This moment in history wasn't just about saving one city's water supply, it carried a powerful symbolic message that still speaks to us today. Salt is mentioned many times in the Bible, and each time, it carries a deep, spiritual meaning. Salt as a purifier. In ancient times, salt was used to cleanse wounds and prevent decay. Spiritually, it represents God's ability to purify our hearts and rid us of sin. Salt as a preserver. Just as salt preserves food, it symbolizes God's everlasting covenant with his people. Salt as a sign of faith. Jesus himself said, "You are the salt of the earth." Matthew 5 verse 13, this means we are called to be agents of change, to bring goodness, preservation, and healing into a broken world. When Elisha threw salt into the water, it wasn't just about fixing Jericho's problem, it was a prophetic act of spiritual renewal and transformation. What does this mean for us today? So here's the big question, what does the story of Elisha and the salt mean for you? It's easy to read this as just another ancient miracle, but the truth is, this story carries a powerful lesson for our lives today. Like the contaminated water of Jericho, we often face pollution in our own lives, whether it's negativity, doubt, sin, or spiritual dryness. Sometimes, no matter how hard we try, things just don't seem to work out. We feel stuck, unproductive, desperate for a breakthrough. But just as Elisha used something simple yet powerful to bring restoration, we, too, can invite God's healing, purification, and transformation into our lives. Elisha's story teaches us that God can use the simplest things to perform miracles. Faith and declaration hold incredible power. No situation is beyond redemption. If an entire city's water supply could be transformed in an instant, then imagine what God can do in your life. Are you ready for a miracle? So, here's the challenge. What needs purification in your life today? Where do you need God's healing and transformation? Elisha's story is more than a miracle from the past, it's a living testimony of what's possible when we trust in God's power. And the best part? That same power is still available today. Are you ready to step into your own breakthrough? Comment below, what part of Elisha's story stood out to you the most? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful biblical revelations. Because sometimes, all it takes is a little bit of salt, and a whole lot of faith. The science behind salt, more than just a seasoning. Salt. It's something so common, so ordinary, that we often take it for granted. We sprinkle it on our food, we use it in cooking, and we see it on every restaurant table. But what if I told you that salt is far more powerful than we ever imagined? It's not just about flavor, salt has been used for thousands of years as a purifier, a healer, and a preservative. And when we look at the science behind salt, we begin to realize that what Elisha did over 2,000 years ago may have been more than just a miracle, it might have been a divine act backed by real science. So, was Elisha ahead of his time? Or is there something far deeper and more powerful at play? Let's find out. The ancient science of salt. Before modern medicine, before water filtration plants, and before chemical disinfectants, salt was one of the most valuable substances on Earth. It was so important that entire civilizations were built around salt trade routes, and Roman soldiers were sometimes paid with salt instead of money, which is where the word salary comes from. But why was salt so valuable? Because it had properties that people in the ancient world couldn't fully explain. yet they knew it worked. Here are just a few things salt was used for in ancient times. Wound disinfection. Salt was applied to wounds to clean them and prevent infection. Ever heard the phrase, rubbing salt in the wound? It comes from the fact that salt stings but also helps heal by killing bacteria. Food preservation. Before refrigeration, salt was used to preserve food by preventing bacterial growth. Meat, fish, and vegetables could last for months when cured with salt. Spiritual and ritual purification. Many ancient cultures used salt in ceremonies and rituals to ward off evil, purify temples, and even bless homes. Water cleansing. This is where things get really interesting. Some ancient civilizations, including the Egyptians and the Romans, used salt to help purify water, a practice that is still used today. Now, with modern science, we can actually explain why salt had these effects. And when we apply this knowledge to Elisha's miracle, things get even more fascinating. How does salt purify water? The science explained. So, let's get to the big question. Can salt really purify water? The short answer is, yes. In fact, salt is still used in modern water purification processes today. Here's how. 1. Killing bacteria and microorganisms. Water contamination is often caused by harmful bacteria and microbes that make people sick. Salt can help eliminate these pathogens in several ways. Osmotic pressure. When salt is added to water, it creates a highly saline environment that draws water out of bacteria cells, dehydrating and killing them. Cell wall disruption. High concentrations of salt can weaken the protective membranes of bacteria, causing them to break down. Chlorine production. When dissolved in water, sodium chloride can help release chlorine, which acts as a natural disinfectant. This is why salt is used in swimming pools and water treatment plants, to help kill harmful bacteria. 2. Removing impurities and heavy metals. Another way salt helps purify water is by acting as a binding agent. It can attract and neutralize certain impurities, including heavy metals. Some forms of salt help remove toxic metals like lead and mercury from water. Dirt and sediment. Salt can help bind small particles together, making them easier to filter out. Harmful chemicals. Salt has been shown to reduce the effects of harmful nitrates in contaminated water. Some water filtration systems use ion exchange resins, which rely on salt-based processes to remove contaminants. 3. Enhancing the natural healing of water. Beyond purification, salt has been found to help restore the natural mineral balance of water, making it safer and healthier to drink. This may explain why Elisha's salt not only removed the poison from the water but also made the land fertile again. Salt-infused water can balance pH levels, making water less acidic and more beneficial to plants and people. Provide essential minerals, such as sodium and chloride, which are necessary for hydration. Prevent algae growth. This can help maintain clean water sources over time. Real-world example. Many natural springs around the world contain salt and minerals that make them famous for their healing properties. Was Elisha ahead of his time? Or was it divine power? Now, let's go back to Elisha's story. The people of Jericho had a serious problem. Their water was toxic, and their land was dying. Then, Elisha threw salt into the water, and suddenly, the contamination disappeared. From what we now understand about the science of salt, could it be that Elisha was actually using a primitive form of water purification? Maybe. But there's something important to remember. Elisha didn't just add salt, he made a prophetic declaration. The change was instantaneous, not gradual. The water remained pure from that day forward. This suggests that while salt may have played a scientific role, something far greater was happening. Elisha's act wasn't just a cleansing process, it was a miracle. A moment where divine power met earthly elements to create something supernatural. It was a symbolic act demonstrating God's power to purify, heal, and restore. So, why does this matter? Because we still need purification today, not just in our water, but in our lives. Just as Jericho's water was contaminated, many of us deal with spiritual, emotional, and mental toxins that weigh us down, negative thoughts. Toxic relationships. Past mistakes. Doubts and fears. But just like Elisha's salt purified the water, there is a greater purification available to us today, a cleansing that goes beyond science and into the supernatural. Just as salt can remove impurities, faith can cleanse our hearts. Just as salt can heal, God can restore brokenness. Just as salt can preserve, God's truth keeps us strong. This is why Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth." Matthew 5 verse 13. Because we are meant to bring healing, preservation, and purification to the world. So, here's the question, are you ready to be the salt? Drop a comment below and let me know, what surprised you most about the science behind salt? And if you loved this, hit like and subscribe for more mind-blowing biblical and scientific insights. Modern uses and applications of salt, how to apply ancient wisdom today. Salt, it's something we all use daily, whether in cooking, preserving food, or even de-icing roads. But did you know that this simple mineral holds incredible power beyond the kitchen? For centuries, salt has been used for purification, protection, and healing, both physically and spiritually. In the Bible, we see the prophet Elisha using salt to cleanse polluted waters, demonstrating that something so small can bring about remarkable transformation. And guess what? You can use salt today in the same way. Here are 3 powerful ways to use salt in your daily life, just like Elisha did. 1. Purify your home with salt. Did you know that salt is one of the most natural and effective purifiers? It has been used for centuries to disinfect, cleanse, and remove toxins, and you can use it to purify your home today. Salt has antibacterial and antifungal properties, making it an excellent natural cleanser. When dissolved in water, salt helps to kill bacteria that may be lurking on surfaces. Remove toxins and impurities. Absorb excess moisture, preventing mold growth. How to use it in your home. Here's how you can create an all-natural salt cleansing solution. Mix 2 tablespoons of salt into a bucket of warm water. Use this water to wipe down tables, counters, and floors. For an extra boost, add a few drops of lemon or vinegar for additional cleaning power. Not only does this method remove dirt and germs, but many people also believe that it spiritually cleanses a space, removing negative energy and creating a more peaceful environment. Try this today. You might just feel a refreshing change in your home. 2. Protect your energy with salt. Have you ever walked into a room and felt an instant shift in energy, maybe a sense of heaviness, tension, or negativity? Some believe that salt has the power to absorb and neutralize negative energy, creating a space of peace and positivity. Ancient traditions and salt's protective power. For centuries, cultures around the world have used salt as a form of spiritual protection. In Japan, sumo wrestlers throw salt into the ring to ward off bad energy. In Italy, salt is sprinkled at doorways to protect a home from negative influences. In many cultures, people place a bowl of salt in a room to absorb negative vibes. Even if you're skeptical about the spiritual aspect, salt's ability to purify the air and remove stagnant energy is undeniable. How to use it to protect your energy. Try this simple salt ritual to refresh the atmosphere in your home or workspace. Fill a small bowl with coarse sea salt or Himalayan salt. Place it in a room where you feel tension, stress, or negativity. Let it sit for 24 to 48 hours, then dispose of the salt and replace it as needed. Many people report feeling a lighter, more peaceful atmosphere after doing this. Try it and see if you notice a difference. 3. Be the salt of the earth. While salt has many physical uses, the most powerful application is how you live your life. In Matthew 5 verse 13, Jesus told his followers, "You are the salt of the earth." But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? Salt enhances, preserves, and purifies, and that's exactly what we are called to do in our relationships, workplaces, and communities. How can you be the salt of the earth? Encourage others. A simple word of kindness can change someone's entire day. Be a peacemaker. Like salt stabilizes and preserves, strive to bring unity and peace wherever you go. Stand for truth. In a world full of confusion, stand firm in what is right and good. Help those in need. salt preserves, just as we are meant to preserve hope and faith in others. Being the salt of the earth isn't about being perfect, it's about making a difference in the small, everyday moments. Smile at a stranger. Support a friend going through a tough time. Show kindness, even when it's hard. Just one small act of kindness can make a big impact, just like a tiny grain of salt can transform an entire dish. How will you use salt today? Salt is more than just something in your kitchen, it's a tool for purification, protection, and influence. Will you use salt to cleanse your home and remove negativity? Will you use it as a symbol of spiritual protection in your space? Most importantly, will you choose to be the salt of the earth, bringing light, love, and encouragement to others? The choice is yours. Start today. Comment below, how do you use salt in your life? Like and share this with someone who needs encouragement today. Subscribe for more powerful insights and biblical wisdom. So, what do you think? Is salt just something we sprinkle on our food, or is there something deeper going on, something powerful that connects both science and faith? We've seen how Elisha used salt to cleanse the waters of Jericho, how Jesus called us to be the salt of the earth, and how even today, salt plays a role in purification, healing, and protection. Could it be that this simple mineral carries a divine message, a reminder of how we are meant to live? Do you believe salt has more than just a physical effect? Have you ever used salt in a meaningful or symbolic way? What's your biggest takeaway from Elisha's story? Comment below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this video got you thinking, or if you learned something new, don't forget to like this video to support more biblical insights. Share it with someone who needs encouragement. Subscribe to Spiritual Journal so you never miss another incredible discovery. The Bible is filled with hidden wisdom, and together, we're uncovering it one story at a time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for another mind-blowing revelation.